All right, today we have lesson 5.6, graphing inequalities on a coordinate plane. There are 4 steps that we need to keep in mind while we're doing this. The first thing we need to do is to write our equation in slope-intercept form. So we need to write in slope-intercept form. Okay. For those of you that don't remember, it's y equals mx plus b. Putting it in slope-intercept form helps us when we are on step 2 and graphing. So we're going to graph with the slope. So we're going to graph using slope and y-intercept. Okay. Then step 3, we're going to decide if we need a solid line or a shaded line. And we're going to look at what constitutes a shaded or solid line in a moment. So then step 4, you have to shade. So if it is greater than or less than, makes a difference on whether you shade above or below the line. So always remember to shade when you have an inequality. And then the last thing you don't want to forget is if it is y equals a number or x equals, you can't remember, you have to keep in mind Hoy Vux. So Hoy view, when we have a horizontal line with a slope of 0, it is y equals something. If it is a vertical line, we have an undefined slope and it is on the x-axis, or x equals something. All right, so those are still true for inequalities. So let's look at a solid line. What makes a solid line? So a solid line is anytime we have something equal or greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. If you have any of those 3, when we're graphing, we have a solid line. We have a dashed line anytime it is less than or greater than. So if we have less than or greater than, it is a dashed line. Okay, now if we have to shade above or below. So if we have to shade above, we're going to have greater than or equal to. So it's all greater. And if we shade below, it is less. So we have less than or equal to. Those are going to tell us to shade below. So let's look at an example. This example is already in slope-intercept form for us. So we have y is greater than 2/3 x minus 4. So using my slope and my y-intercept, I'm going to graph this. So my y-intercept is -4, so I'm going to start at the origin and go down 4 and put a point. Then I'm going to use my slope, which is 2/3, and rise over run tells me that I'm going to rise 2, run 3, up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3. And I can do the same thing in the downward position, down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3. Now it is greater than, there's a funky looking greater than sign. Let's fix that. So I have a, look over here, it's not a solid line because it is not equal to. I look at dashed line, so it is a dashed line because it is just a greater than symbol. So I'm going to draw a dashed line going through my points. Make sure to put arrows on the ends. Then am I going to shade above or below? So it is a greater than tells me to shade above. Okay. So that is all there is to graphing. The only new things we have to consider is if we have a solid or a dashed line, or shade above or shade below. Other than that, graphing the actual line on a coordinate plane is the same as graphing a regular equation. Now let's go back to this idea of Hoy view in case you can't not remember that. The H is a horizontal line. Means I have a 0 slope, and it is on the y-axis. For example, if I had y is less than 2 on my graph, I would have a dotted line at 2. So let's say this is 2. I'm going to have a dotted line at 2, and it is less than, so I would shade below. Okay. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if I had a vertical line, means I have an undefined slope, and it is on the x-axis. For example, if I had x is greater than or equal to -3. Let's draw my coordinate plane, and I would go on the x-axis. So I would go to -3 on my x-axis and put a point. I have greater than or equal to, so I'm going to have a solid line. And I'm going to shade on the greater than sign. So on the x-axis, greater than is to the right, because those are the numbers getting larger. All right. Those are all your notes that we have. Make sure you have your graphic organizer completed for tomorrow, and you have 4 practice problems to do on your own.